In this video, I will teach you about the properties of parallelograms, and we will use those properties to find unknown angles and sides and variables. So the first property I want to remind you of is that opposite angles in a parallelogram are congruent. So angles F and H are opposite angles. So if this is 132, then this will be 132 degrees as well. Now, on the other hand, consecutive angles, all right, the angles that are on the same side are going to be supplementary. So this angle and this angle will be supplementary. They have to add up to 180. All right, so if you think to yourself, what is 180 minus 132? Okay, 48. So that is going to be the measure of angle E. Now, angle G is opposite angle E, and we already talked about the fact that opposite angles are congruent. So this will also be 48 degrees. It's worth mentioning that angle F and G are consecutive angles, so they should be supplementary, which makes sense because 132 is supplementary with 48. So it works both ways. So in this way, if we have one angle given, we should be able to find all four angles easily. So the measure of angle E was 48 degrees. The measure of angle G, also 48 degrees. And the measure of angle H was 132 degrees. Okay, another property of a parallelogram is that opposite sides are congruent. So opposite angles are congruent, but opposite sides are also congruent. So for that reason, x plus 2 should equal 4 because those are opposite sides. So I can use that to make a little equation. So I could say x plus 2 should equal 4. Of course, if we subtract 2 from both sides, I get x equals 2. If I want to find the y value, well, these are opposite sides, so those should be equal to each other. So I can say y minus 5 should equal 12. And then if I add 5 to both sides, I get y equals 17. So we found that variable. Okay, so this next problem has a combination of opposite angles and opposite sides. In both cases, these should be equal to each other. Opposite sides are equal. So from that, I get the equation 3x plus 4 will equal 16. Let's solve it out. Subtract 4 from both sides. That gives me 3x is equal to 12. And then divide both sides by 3. And we discover that x is equal to 4. In the same way, we know that opposite angles are congruent. So these should be equal. So that's going to tell me that y minus 60 is equal to 56. So if I add 60 to both sides, okay, that's going to give me 116. For number 6, we're going to use the fact that opposite angles are congruent first. We have consecutive angles. I guess we could have done either one. But 9b minus 2 should definitely equal 106. And then we will add 2 to both sides. So that will give us 9b is equal to 108. So when we divide both sides by 9, we're going to get b is equal to 12. All right, now we still need to find the a value. So let's use the fact that consecutive angles are supplementary. All right, so that means that this yellow and blue, they should add up to 180. Let's see. All right, so that's going to look like this. We will say 7a minus 3 plus 106 is equal to 180, right? These two angles are supplementary. Well, let's combine these like terms first. They are on the same side, so we simply combine them. So we have 7a plus 103 is equal to 180. We can then subtract 103 from both sides. So that will give us 7a is equal to 77. Of course, then when we divide both sides by 7, we get a is equal to 11. All right, one more problem. First, let's use the opposite sides, or the fact that opposite sides of a parallelogram are congruent. So these will be equal to each other. So we can go ahead and say that 13k minus 9 will equal 5k plus 7. So we have the variable on both sides of the equation. So we need to subtract 5k from both sides to get those k's together. Okay, so that is going to give us 8k minus 9 is equal to 7. Next, we would add 9 to both sides. So that will give us 8k is equal to 16. So finally, when we divide both sides by 8, we're going to get k is equal to 2. All right, and now let's use the fact that consecutive angles are supplementary. So please be careful. These two angles inside of here, they are not congruent. Because they're not opposite angles. They are on the same side of the parallelogram. The green one is acute and the blue one is obtuse. So they are not congruent, they are supplementary. So they need to add up to 180. So what we can say is that 12j minus 41 plus 5j minus 17 should equal 180. All right, they are supplementary, they add up to 180. Now, all of these terms are on the same side of the equation. So we're just going to combine like terms. So looking at the 12j and the 5j, all right, those are like terms. So let's just put those together. So that's going to be 17j. All right, and then of course we can also combine the negative 41 and the negative 17. Okay, so that's going to give us negative 58. and that will equal 180. Then, of course, if we add 58 to both sides, we wind up with 17j is equal to 238. So finally, we will divide both sides by 17. And that will leave us with j equals whatever that is. All right, and that is 14. So that is how you use the properties of parallelograms to find unknown values.